everyone know what is energy. So just still, if you give an explanation or definition what is energy. Energy is nothing but the capacity to do the work or to perform a physical work. Okay, energy is nothing to perform a physical work. And the form of energy can vary. There is not only one form of energy, different forms of energy. Okay, if any problem, sound problem or video problem or any question, please let me inform me in the chat box. I'm checking. Okay, any problem happens, inform me in the chat box, and also give your small feedback in the chat box. No problem, I'm checking. So what I'm trying to say that the energy has different forms, several forms. It can be electrical energy, it can be mechanical energy, it can be kinetic energy, heat energy, nuclear energy. You can see that several energy, light energy, okay, potential energy, so many energies forms. And we all know that there is no end of energy. There is just a transformation from one form to another form. Okay, so today we will see those kind of things. And interestingly, there are types of energy two types of energy in the world right now. One is renewable energy, one is non-renewable energy. Okay, so non-renewable energy, we already know that coal, gas, oil, something like that. Okay, natural gas, those are non-renewable energy. Once you use, it's finished. So after, it's very interesting, after 200, within 200 years, all the energy sources will be done. All the non-renewable energy sources will be completed, everything will be finished. So what about next? So that's why the scientists have tried to transform energy from the different medium, that is renewable medium. Renewable medium means that energy we can harness over and over and over again until the last day of this world. Okay, and also one more thing is that uh, this kind of renewable energy will have no limit, because we know that gas, coal, everything has a limit. Within 200 years, within 50 years, 100 years, one by one, every non-renewable energy will be finished. But renewable energy means it's renewable until the end of the world. So we all know some of the forms. Some will say sir wind energy, some will say sir solar energy or the energy from the sun. Okay, so today we will discuss different types of renewable energy. So we already discussed there are two types of energy, renewable energy and non-renewable energy. Okay, so why renewable energy? Why renewable energy? There should be some basic things. The why. That means because there are some things that renewable energy, we can directly take it from nature, and it is unlimited. Okay, so which is a very big advantage, as it is from nature and we don't need to pay for it. Suppose sunlight, wind, water. Okay, so these kind of things are not needed to be paid. So that's why we are focusing more in the renewable energy. And also these are quite abundant. There is no shortage, no shortage of light, no shortage of water, no shortage of wind. Very much abundant. That's why renewable energy is getting more popular recent days. Sorry. Okay. So here we can see some of the forms of renewable energy. We already some know some of the forms, but probably two or three are unknown. So Said has entered. Okay. So first is wind energy. That is, we all know that energy comes from the winds. Hydropower. Hydropower is basically, hydro means water. So the water power, basically electricity generated from the power, water. Okay, in our country we have one hydroelectric power plant that is situated uh, in the southeast part. It was near my campus, Kaptai hydroelectric power plant. Third one is solar energy. We all know that how to harness the energy from the solar cell or from the sun. Biomass, we all know that biomass is something like that, the biogas plant, the wastage and the the different sheets from different domestic animals. We make them fermentation process. After fermentation we get those biogas and use those energy. And last but not the least is geothermal energy. There is a new form, probably some of the students know, probably don't know. Geothermal is basically the energy harnessed from the beneath of the world surface. Okay, so we dig big holes, probably 50 100 kilometers. After that we know that from the surface, if we go beyond within the surface, the temperature increases. So inside the earth there are so many heats, so much heats available. So using those heats we harness energy, that is geothermal energy. Okay, the students, if you have any problem, please comment in the chat box, and also please drop your role. If you already don't do it, drop your role in the chat box. Okay, so these are the forms of different renewable energy sources. So first we will discuss wind energy. Okay, we have a detailed slide of wind energy, how wind energy is generated, what are the components. In the next class, day after tomorrow, we'll discuss that, but today we will just saw a glimpse. You see that the wind energy is basically based on the speed of wind, and there is a structure, there is a long structure which is connected in the ground, and among the long structure a turbine, a wind turbine is established. We may know or we may not know turbine, but let me give a small thing of what is turbine. Turbine is a rotational device, is a mechanical rotational device which basically rotates. So why turbine is needed? So basically we all know that to produce electricity we use generator. Okay, and there are main two parts, one is stator, one is rotor. So if we rotate the rotor by something, when the rotor rotates, it creates or it cuts the flux, magnetic flux, and the voltage induces in the stator. Okay, so we need to rotate the rotor. So the thing we used to rotate the rotor, that is known as prime mover. So turbine is basically a prime mover. How? So we rotate turbine by using various means. We will discuss later. But turbine is a combined of blades, and in the middle of it there is a shaft. There is an iron shaft or metal shaft that is coupled or joined with the rotor. So when the turbine rotates, the generator also rotates. So this is the purpose of turbine. So in the wind energy there is a wind turbine there, and with the wind turbine, the blades, you see the three blades in this picture, there are blades available. So when the wind forces the blade, so the whole blades rotates and it is connected with the wind turbine. So the wind turbine also rotates. Interesting thing is that I said that, sir, turbine is connected to the rotor. We all know that generator rotor speed is 1500 rpm or 3000 rpm related to the pole number. We all know that the equation, the synchronous speed n equals to 120 f by p. Okay, so 1500 rpm, that means per minute 1500, 1500. rotation is huge speed, but can wind generate that kind of speed? No. So then, sir, how to cope up that speed variation? It might 5 or 6 times or 7 to 8 times in a minute. So how to cope up that huge speed difference? So basically, to cope up that huge speed difference, there is a component known as gearbox. Gearbox is used. We will see in the next class much more closer look. Today we'll just discussing about the wind energy basic things. So a gearbox is used in between wind turbine and generator. So when the turbine moves slowly, the gearbox makes the speed which is compatible to generator. And how? That's how the electricity generates in the wind turbine. I think you understand how the wind energy. Okay, next is hydropower. Very interesting, hydropower. So hydropower is basically generated from water. The electricity is generated from water. So how it is generated? Basically, in a area where we can create a dam, in a water area, in a hilly area, basically hilly area, we can create a dam. When we create a dam in middle of a river or lake, one side of the water will begin to rise. You see that in the diagram? One side water will begin to rise and the other side will have a low water level. So there is one side with a very high water level and the other side have a very low water level. So what happens next? You see that in the middle there is a switch gate called, there is a gate created. So something like that. When this gate is open, there is a high water level. So this high water level will try to push who is marking. Okay, this high water level will try to push. If you have any questions, please comment in the chat box, then I will see, I will discuss. Sir, do wind turbine produce AC or DC? It produce AC, sir. AC. Okay, it produce AC. So where we are? Okay, the hydroelectric power plant. The hydroelectric power plant, basically there is a switch gate here. We can see that there is a switch gate. So in between, when this gate is open, there is a huge high level of water there which create pressure, and this, from this pressure the water tends to flow from these penstocks. See my cursor, tends to flow these penstocks, and the turbine is here. So when it hits the turbine rotates. Okay, the turbine rotates and the turbine is connected with the generator. So when turbine rotates, the generator also rotates. That's how the electricity is produced in hydroelectric energy. Now, sir, how can we defend or define the high level of water? Basically, you just think, you just pick a iron bar and go to the 8th floor. Okay, and hold the iron bar in the 8th floor and the roof of 8th floor. Is there any energy available in the iron bar? Yes, that energy is basically known as potential energy. Okay, we all know that potential energy equals to mgh. M is the mass, g is the, the value of gravitational force by earth, and h is the height. Okay, so if I just throw the iron bar from 8th floor to the down, it will transfer its potential energy to the kinetic energy. Okay, and heat, and it will heat so hard in the ground. That's happened here. The water potential energy basically is created by creating using a dam. Okay, using a dam. So this dam, uh, uh, using a dam, so when the switch gate opens, this potential energy is converted to kinetic energy and flows through these penstokes and heat the turbine with that kinetic energy. And when the turbine is heated by this kinetic energy of water, it rotates, and it rotates with the generator, as the turbine shaft and the generator shaft, basically rotor, is coupled. Okay, so that's how the production of power in the hydroelectric power plant. Okay, next, the solar energy. Probably you know, probably you don't know. That's how solar energy uh, but it's a very much popular right now. Okay, how solar energy, you might see that the solar energy is basically harnessed by solar cell. Okay, a small solar cell. So how the solar cell works, basically solar cell, you have studied the electronics, I know, I believe that you have studied the electronics. Solar cell is nothing but a PN junction diode, a semiconductor diode made with silicon. We all know, probably you have studied this also in the electronics, in a PN junction diode. So we all know that when there is no voltage applied in the PN junction, there will be no current flow. Okay, so when this cell, solar cell, a small cell, you see that in a solar box, something like that, you will say, you will see so many solar cells. Okay, so many solar cells just situated one after another, one after another. So every solar cell is connected in series. In series, every solar cell is connected in series. So when there is the sunlight, no, just puts in the solar cell, it takes the heat energy from there, and the, the majority carrier, the minority carrier, flows from N region to P region. And 1 minute, just হ্যাঁ মুনিম, আমি একটু ক্লাস আছে, আমি তোর পরে ফোন দিই। Okay, so basically, sorry, your Munim sir called me, that's why, I'm extremely sorry. So basically, what I'm trying to say, so when the heat energy or the sun energy is, put on the solar cell, it takes that heat energy, and the solar cell becomes, or the junction, or the PN junction diode becomes forward biased. So when it becomes forward biased, okay, at that time, we all know that silicon has a voltage of 0.7 volt. Okay, so every solar cell is a junction diode, so everything is in series. So 0.7, you just sum all voltage, that creates that 12 volt or 24 volt solar cell. Okay, so basically solar cell, from solar energy we produce DC power, not AC power. Remember, from solar cell we produce DC power, not AC power. To convert from this DC power to AC power, we need inverter. We know that we need inverter. Biomass, this is very popular in the rural area of our country, or similarly probably you also. Basically all the, exhaust materials from the domestics, materials from the consumers, all the sheets, the crop animals, okay, everything that is wastage, that is put in a hole, in the soil, and from there all these materials becomes, decomposed and fermentized. So it creates methane gas. From there on, we use that methane gas to produce small amount of electricity. That's how the biomass works. Last, the geothermal energy, very important, which is basically not a very conventional in our country also, basically which uses the heat energy under the surface of earth. So to harness this geothermal energy, we have to put, or we have to make two big hole. Okay, we have to dig deep into the earth. So in first hole we provide water. We provide water. So when the water goes inside, in the low, in the deep to the hole, it absorbs the heat energy of the earth. It absorbs the heat energy of earth. So when it absorbs the heat energy of earth, this water becomes steam. The gaseous form of water, steam, it becomes steam. We'll study in the next class the steam power plant, how steam power plant works. This hot steam gas is flown within the hot steam gas is flown within the uh, turbine, then the turbine rotates. So basically when this water goes inside the surface, it takes the heat energy from the surface, or from the earth, and becomes steam. So with another, you see the next, if you see the diagram, you see that from this hole we give water, normal water. When it goes deep, it takes the heat and it becomes steam. So when it becomes steam, in the other side, in the other hole, we take this steam, get back to the surface, and using this hot steam to produce electricity by steam power plant. And how steam power plant works, we will study very soon. Probably after one class, we'll study how the steam power plant works. But basically using the heat energy from the earth surface, from the deep earth surface, we provide normal water, but we get back hot water and steam from that earth. That is the way of producing geothermal energy. Geo means earth, thermal means heat energy. Okay, so this is a very small distribution of United States energy. You can see that most of the parts are dominated by non-renewable energy: oil, natural gas, coal, nuclear power. A small percent, only 7% is for renewable energy, but the value is going up every year. The value is going up, and within 50 years you will see probably in the renewable energy is dominating. Renewable energy is dominating. But in Europe, you will be astonished that they have already accomplished more than 20% of renewable energy. So Europe, Australia, they are harvesting more renewable energy. Okay, so they are basically reserving their non-renewable energy for future, but right now they are also establishing different renewable energy sources. This is just statistics from United States, probably in recent days. So there should be some advantage of renewable energy sources. Why we will go to the renewable energy sources? You see that the first things comes to that it's totally free of cost. The first thing, so renewable energy, so the wind, the water, the heat from the surface, the sunlight, everything is free. That is the first thing should be considered. The second thing is that, so it is totally adequate, quite enough. Huge amount of renewable energy is available in the nature. So that's why there will be no limit. There will be no limit for that. Then will be it will require a very less maintenance when we produce electricity from this kind of renewable energy sources. And also one more advantage is very clean energy. clean energy, the solar energy, the wind energy, the water energy, it really doesn't gives harm to the environment. So it really doesn't give any kind of global warming. So that's why it's a very clean energy. On the other hand, you use coal, you use natural gas, oil, those gives the makes the global warming for the world. But for this case it's totally clean. And also it is not necessary to depend on other country to produce, because in every country we have sunlight, we have wind, we have earth, we have water. But for suppose a thing for some power plant is run by suppose diesel power plant. In Bangladesh we don't produce oil. We have to import oil from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, this type of country. Similarly, a lot of countries. Okay, so we have to rely among them. When they raise the price of the oil, it becomes high. So we have to depend. But for renewable energy, the sun, the weather, the air, the water, the earth, everything is available in every country. So we don't need to rely on other countries for this material. There are some serious problems also for this renewable energy. So you can say that, sir, this type of renewable energy is available from so long, but it's still not spreading so much as it should be. But the interesting thing is that there are some serious lackings or serious problems of this renewable energy, and the scientists are doing their regular stuffs, doing their research to how to overcome this kind of problems. The first thing is that if we go to the solar energy, the sunlight comes only in the day. But what about night? In the night we do not get any kind of solar energy. Similarly, sir, if we go for the wind energy, the wind is not same in the all area. You see that we cannot place any wind turbine in the rooftop of Dhaka International University, can we? No. So there are some specific areas where we can establish the wind turbine. And also the wind speed is also not fixed. Sometimes it's very much, sometimes it's very low. And also the wind direction is also not in the same way. It's very random. Sometimes wind comes from this side, from sometimes on the other side. So it's quite random, so it creates a great problem for wind turbine. We'll see. If we discuss about the cost, the initial cost, the starting cost for a renewable energy plant is very high. That is one of the main constraints for establishing the renewable energy. Similarly, for hydroelectric power plant, it is very expensive to build a dam. Because if we build a dam, it will change the flowing structure of river, which can hamper the people live near the river. Okay, so that can have a big problem with the humanity. In the geothermal, it has also a problem, because to drill, to go deep kilometers inside the earth, it requires a very high amount of technology, which is very highly expensive. So these are the lots of problems are also available in the renewable energy. So we can see that there are different types of power plant. Power plant means where the power or electricity generates. So different types of power plant, but the first thing is that types of power plant on the basis of fuel, which fuel they use. If they use steam, that means water, that is known as steam power plant. If they use diesel oil, that is known as diesel power plant. If they use nuclear, basically the uranium, uranium atom and use the chain reaction, that is nuclear power plant. If they use water, the potential energy of water, that is hydroelectric power plant. Similarly, gas turbine power plant, if they use the hot flue gas to run the turbine. Then on the basis of nature of load, that means what type of load, is it a peak load, is it a base load, or no, we'll discuss this. So it's a very important thing that what is peak load, what is base load. You see a graph, you see a graph where you see the lowest point and this is the highest point, this is the very much peak. So you see that the lowest point, that time, that amount of energy requires the whole year, requires the whole year. So from, in some year, in some months we require less amount of power, but in summer we require more amount of power, but in winter we require less amount of power. Nice information that Ethiopia, um, let me say, so Ethiopia has started building dam in 2011 and still they are continue building. Yes, it's a very, timely process and it's a very costly process. We are in our country only one hydroelectric power plant is there, that is known as Kaptai hydroelectric power plant, and the capacity of the hydroelectric power plant is 230 megawatt. Okay, so yeah, it's a timely process. So what I was discussing, the base load and peak load, the certain amount of load which will be, required throughout the year. So that amount of load or that amount of demand of electricity to meet, we need certain amount of power plant. So that power, those power plants will run every day in the whole year, that is base load. But in summer or in peaks time we require more power. So to maintain that supply, to cope up with that demand, we require some extra power plant that will meet up the demand of that peak load. That peak load, you can see that peak load they can, meet. So those power plant basically are operated for meeting the peak load demand. So those power plant are basically known as peak load power plant. So that was the difference between the base load and peak load power plant. Interestingly, the diesel power plants, it requires very less area and very less time to start. These are peak load power plants, and hydroelectric power plant, nuclear power plant, these are the base load power plant. The base load power plant. So the location of power plant is very important thing. That's a where will be the location of the power plant. Suppose hydroelectric power plant, we cannot establish a hydroelectric power plant anywhere because it will require a river. It will require that river where we can build a dam, and also it will create, higher level of water and lower level of water. So it requires basically hilly area, hilly river. Okay, hilly river to create this kind of level difference. So we cannot build a hydroelectric power plant anywhere. So that's why in our country there is only one hydroelectric power plant. In China, Brazil, there are many hydroelectric power plants because they have more hilly land than us. Bhutan, they has hydroelectric power plant. Sikkim, they has hydroelectric power plant. India, because those areas are hilly areas. For thermal power plant or steam power plant, we need water. So that's why we need to establish those power plant near river, any river. We cannot establish a steam power plant in Panthabot city, cannot. Similarly, for diesel power plant, probably it requires no, special characteristics of area. We can establish diesel power plant anywhere because it requires very less area, and also we need only diesel which can be, transferred by different vehicles. Also, some nuclear power plant, you suppose think it cannot be established anywhere because it has the radioactivity problem. So you should establish this kind of power plant in such a area where the people are less people are living. You see that in our country, one nuclear power plant is there, that is Rupu nuclear power plant, which is situated in the Pabna Ishwardi, and among the around the 5 kilometers of that power plant, there are hardly any people live. So the radioactivity problem. So it should be outside where the people, the human, do not live there. So the location is very important for a power plant. So that was today's class. It was just the beginning of the course, so I didn't want to bore all of you. It was just the basic thoughts of different energy sources. So I want to just stop this share from here on, and I'm just unmuting all for, yeah, you all are unmuted.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
So
sir.
so I tried in a very slow manner, okay, so that you can okay, let me see my face, my happy face. uh, so it was not a very tough thing. If you just read one by one time, it will be very easy for all of you, okay. But the thing is that
Yes, sir.
uh, these are the energy we all know, probably all know, one or except one or two all know. But interesting thing is that in the next class we'll see some of the
Yes.
energy sources that is quite interesting. We the energy from wave of the sea, the energy from the tide, and we also discuss more about wind energy. It will be very interesting in the next class. So that was today's class. I think I think you enjoyed
Yes,
probably,
sir.
and I don't want to lengthen this class anymore because it's not required right now. So if anything is required, tell me, or you can drop your role in the chat
Already,
box.
sir.
Already done. Okay. If you are done, then excellent. If you are done, then excellent. Then excellent. And from my point of view, I will say that please try to attend the class, online class of other teachers also, please. I am the coordinator of day 26 batch. That's why
Yes,
I
sir.
have to you know give
Yes.
answers anything you have done, anything I have to responsible. I'm responsible for day 26 batch. Suppose if you have done anything wrong, anything good, everything comes to me, if you are
Yes, sir.
if you do anything good, they all, everybody also give me praise that yeah, Mamun sir coordinates this batch. And also any bad thing also comes to me also. So I'll request all of you try to attend the other teachers class and cooperate them also. It's a very bad situation going on throughout the world, so we need to be calm, and be positive, and just work hard, nothing else. But work hard staying at home. Staying at home, you can start YouTubing in this time, so much time. You can start YouTubing, you can make videos. This is high time you start a new thing in the internet, okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
whatever we have discussed, I am already recording. After finishing this class, I will try to upload as soon as possible the video.
Yes,
I
sir.
will upload in
Okay,
the
sir.
YouTube and then also share with all of you. I think
Okay, sir.
everybody remains safe, inshallah. That's it for today, okay. See you in the next class tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Okay, Allah Hafiz.